Good morning, students. So today we are going to discuss about the steps of respiration. So in the last class what we just started the chapter, and in that what we discussed is that human respiratory system, the main one, isn't it? So you need to practice the diagram for the same. So that's what I said, right? Now we are going into the next topic, that is the steps of respiration. So what are the different steps that is involved in respiration? Okay. So the first step when you are saying breathing or pulmonary ventilation. So breathing, as I have already told you, what is breathing? Taking in air rich in oxygen and giving out air rich in carbon dioxide. That process we call it as what? The breathing. Ventilation means the air is entering in, the air is moving out. Pulmonary, why? Because it is connected with lungs. So something which is connected with lungs is what? Pulmonary. Heart, it is cardiac, you would have learned, isn't it? So like that for lungs it is pulmonary. So pulmonary ventilation or breathing is just a physical process where the air rich in oxygen is getting in and air rich in carbon dioxide is moving out, right? So that was the first point. Second is what? Diffusion of gases across the alveolar membrane. So next what happens, the gas is getting conducted. Conducted through what? Through the nostril, larynx, trachea, bronchi, bronchioles, till that it is conduction. So when it is getting conducted, actually what is happening is the air is getting filtered because cilias are there, they will trap the microorganism. So filtration process is taking place. Air is getting moistened because of water vapor. Then the air is bringing, the air which is entering into the lungs is brought back to the normal body temperature. All these functions is taking place where in the conducting part. So bringing back the air to normal body temperature, humidifying the air means adding water to the air. Thereafter you can find they are also helping in trapping the microorganisms so that the clean air is moving into the lungs. So all these are done in the conducting part. The air is reaching where through breathing it is reaching into the alveoli or the air sac. So this is the alveoli or the air sac. Okay. So this alveoli or the air sacs, when you see this is the alveoli or the air sac. In this air sac you can find there are being covered by some blood vessels. Who is covering? The blood capillaries are there, which is covering the alveoli. So this is the alveoli and the blood capillaries are covering the alveoli. Is that clear? So this is the blood capillaries which are, so this is alveoli and the blood capillaries which are covering the alveoli. So what is happening? The oxygen has got into the alveoli. Who has come into the alveoli? The oxygen. Now what is happening? Inside the alveoli the oxygen is more. In the blood, when you are seeing which is coming to the lungs, so that blood when you are seeing it contains more carbon dioxide. They have brought from down the carbon dioxide from the heart, they have taken and come here. Okay. So this blood vessels when you are seeing, what will be more? Carbon dioxide will be more. Inside this alveoli what will be more? Oxygen will be more. Okay. So what is happening? Through the blood the carbon dioxide is moving because here it is more. So from here the carbon dioxide will move into the alveoli. From a region of higher concentration they will move to a region of lower concentration into the alveoli. And from the alveoli, since the oxygen is more and in the blood vessels the oxygen is less, they will move into the alveoli. From the alveoli it will move into the blood. Okay. So here exchange is taking place. In the alveolar membrane exchange, diffusion of gases is taking place. So how is the gases diffusing? I told you. Air which is present here is rich in oxygen in the alveoli. So oxygen from here is moving into the blood vessels. Okay. From the blood it will be collected. This blood will take the blood to the heart. From there it will be moving to various parts of my body. Oxygen. Okay. And from everywhere the blood collected, the carbon dioxide is present in the blood vessels. Now this carbon dioxide will be moving from the blood vessels into the alveoli. From the alveoli to the bronchiole, bronchiole to the tertiary bronchi, secondary bronchi, primary bronchi. Then it will come to what? The trachea, larynx. Then it will come to nostril and it will move out. Okay. So diffusion of gases is taking place in the alveolar membrane. So here you can find the diffusion of gases is taking place. Next what is happening? I told you. After the oxygen is given to the blood vessels, the oxygen from the blood vessel is carrying the oxygen to the heart, and from there it is pumped to various parts of my body. Okay, so transport of gases is taking place. When this oxygen is going to different parts of my body, what is happening there? There they are giving the oxygen to the cell. From the blood vessels, the oxygen will go into the cell. After going into the cell, what will be taking place? They will be taking out what? They will be helping in respiration, and what will be released? Carbon dioxide will be released, isn't it? So air has got into Okay, so that is the first process. Has from the alveoli, now it has got into the blood. The blood is moving into the heart and to various parts of the body. The blood is transported, oxygen is transported. The oxygen from the blood is moving into the cells in various parts of my body. There what is carried out in the cell? Cellular respiration. What is produced? Carbon dioxide. So the carbon dioxide will move into the veins. Okay, another blood vessels they will be moving. From the blood vessels, the veins, they will be coming to the heart. From the heart, again it will be going to the lungs. And from the lungs, it will be moving out. Which one? Carbon dioxide. Okay. So, air is entering in. Air is diffused in the alveolar membrane. Oxygen is transported to various parts of my body. There in the tissue it is reaching. There the oxygen and carbon dioxide, what is happening? Diffusion is taking place. Okay. So, oxygen is given to the cell. Carbon dioxide is collected. And after collection, the carbon dioxide is moving to the lungs. From there it will go out. And this oxygen is utilized for what you know? They are utilized for respiration, releasing carbon dioxide that is moving out to the lungs and it is moving out. Is that clear? I will repeat again. What we are taking in? We are taking in air-rich in oxygen. The air-rich in oxygen is moving into the alveoli. In the alveoli, the oxygen is from the alveoli it is going into the blood. Okay, blood vessels are there. There it is going. That blood, oxygen loaded blood is connected to the heart. From the heart it is going to various parts of my body, transported. After going to various parts of my body, there are cells waiting for oxygen. It is going to the cell. From the blood vessel it is going to the cell. After going to the cell, what is happening? Respiration is carried out. What is produced? Carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is collected from various cells, isn't it? And it is moving into the blood vessels. From there it is coming to the lungs through another blood vessel. We call it as veins. One which is carrying oxygen, artery. One which is collecting carbon dioxide is veins. Okay. So through the veins it is coming to where? It is coming to the heart. From the heart it will go to the lungs, and from the lungs again the carbon dioxide is going into the alveoli, and from there it is going out. Like that, there are different steps in respiration. Hope this is clear. The respiratory, the steps which are involved in respiration. Is it clear? Next we are moving on to mechanism of breathing. Now, this diagram is depicting mechanism of breathing. Very important 3-mark question. The diagram also you have to practice, you have to draw and you have to practice. Okay. So, mechanism of breathing means I told you breathing is a physical process, isn't it? There is no chemical reactions involved, nothing is happening. Only some pressure volume differences are created. How it is created, that's what we are going to discuss. Okay. So, mechanism of breathing, for that we have already discussed about some structures of the lungs, isn't it? So, when we were discussing lungs, we told you that in the front there is sternum, then rib cage is there, at the back it is vertebral column, and thereafter at the bottom when you are seeing here abdomen and thorax, there is a division, that is a dome shaped structure present called as diaphragm, isn't it? So, that all structures we have discussed. Now, listen students, the rib cage is connected with the lungs. In between there is a set of muscles present. So, this is the rib cage, okay, and this is my lungs. So, in between there is a muscle present. So, that muscle we call it as intercostal muscles. What do we call them? Intercostal muscles. And here you can find the diaphragm and this abdomen. There is a set of muscle present. We call it as the abdominal muscles. What do we call them? Abdominal muscles. Okay. So, now what is going to happen? Listen very carefully. Mechanism of breathing. We are going to discuss about inhalation and exhalation. Okay. So, what is inhalation? Taking in air rich in oxygen. What is exhalation? Giving out air rich in carbon dioxide. Inhalation can also be called as inspiration. Exhalation can also be called as expiration. Okay. So, this mechanism of breathing is dealing with inhalation and exhalation. Listen, what are the changes that is taking place which is resulting in inhalation first, inspiration. Okay. So, in first what will happen is that you can find the ribs and the sternums are raised. This part is getting raised. Why it is getting raised? Because you can find the intercostal muscles which are present, they are contracting. What is happening to them? They are contracting. So, when the intercostal muscles contracts, actually they are pulling. Okay, they are creating a pull which is making the ribs to move upward and outward. How it is moving? It is moving upward as well as outward. Okay, it's moving upward and outward. So here when you are seeing, they are moving up and out. Ribs and the sternum are moving up and out. Okay. So that is one. So in that case, when the ribs are moving up and out, actually dorsoventral axis. Dorsal is this part. Sorry, this is ventral and this one is dorsal. So the dorsoventral part is expanding. Why? Because the intercostal muscles, when they contract, they move the ribs upward and outward. Okay. Next, when the abdominal muscles, so next set of muscle, which is the diaphragm, when you are seeing, they are getting contracted. Means these abdominal muscles are getting contracted. So when the abdominal muscles contract, they will pull the diaphragm downward. How they will be pulling? They will pull the diaphragm downward. So one is making it move upward and outward. Another one is pulling downward. So automatically what will happen to this volume? The volume will increase. The area will increase. When the volume increases, what happens to the pressure? It is less, isn't it? But outside the pressure is more. The air from a region of more pressure will move into a region of less pressure. Is that clear? So like that the air is moving in. I repeat once again, listen carefully. In the ribs and the lungs between there is a muscle called as intercostal muscles. During inhalation, the intercostal muscle is contracting, which brings the sternum, the bone here, as well as the ribs. They are moving upward and outward. They are moving up and out. Okay. When the abdominal muscles which are present here is contracting, the diaphragm is moving downwards. What happens here? The volume increases. The area increases. Pressure decreases. Outside the pressure of air is more. Inside it is less. So what happens? The air rushes in. Okay. So the pressure when it is less, and here the pressure is more, air from a more pressure region will move into the less pressure region, right? So this is regarding your inhalation. Now in exhalation, what is happening? So this inhalation, when the diaphragm is getting contracted, this area will also increase, isn't it? So that one we call it as anterior. Anterior means the front. Posterior means the bottom part. Okay. So the anterior posterior axis is also increasing. So two axes are increasing. One dorsoventral axis, because ribs, intercostal muscles are playing a role in increasing the dorsoventral axis, and anterior posterior axis is increasing because of this diaphragm. Diaphragm when it is contracting, anterior posterior axis is increasing. So when these area increases, volume increases, pressure decreases, the air rushes in. Okay. This is opposite. So what happens? The ribs and the sternum comes back to normal. They are relaxing, they are coming back to normal, which means they are moving inward and downward. Okay. That was upward and outward. This one is inward and downward. They are moving in and down. Okay. Which one? The ribs and the sternum. And the next one is your diaphragm muscles also. The abdominal muscle relax and they go up. The diaphragm is coming to its original dome shaped structure. So this is the dome shaped structure. Here it is becoming somewhat flat. Here it is becoming a dome shaped structure. So when this is happening, the dorsoventral part is also decreased. Anterior posterior part is also decreased. The volume is decreased. Area is decreased. What happens to the pressure? The pressure becomes more. When the pressure here is more, but here it is less. So air from a region of more pressure will move out to the region of less pressure. So air from inside will be moving out. That process we call it as exhalation, or we can also call it as what? Expiration. Is that clear? So here what is happening? Inhalation, the air is moving in. Exhalation, the air is moving out. How it is doing? Listen very carefully. What do you have to say? There is a set of muscles present called as intercostal muscles between the lungs and the sternums and ribs. Okay. So this intercostal muscles, when they contract, they move upward and outward. There is a set of muscles called as abdominal muscles, which is guarding the diaphragm. So when the abdominal muscles contracts, the diaphragm contracts, the muscles will be coming down, the diaphragm will become somewhat flat. So the anterior posterior axis also expands, as well as your the dorsoventral axis also expands, and the anterior posterior axis also expands. So when this is expanding, what is happening? Here the volume is increased, the area is increased. When the volume is increased, the pressure is less. So outside the pressure is more, so the air from out will get in. Okay, so that is inspiration. What is expiration is taking place? Opposite. The ribs, sternum, intercostal muscles will relax and they will move inward and downward, normal position. Diaphragm also moves upward, dome shaped position. Okay, so when they are moving up, they will get relaxed, they move up, abdominal muscles, the diaphragm moves upward, original dome shaped position. Here what happens? The dorsoventral axis less, as well as your anterior posterior axis also becomes less. So the area is reduced, the volume is reduced, pressure is more. Inside pressure is more, outside it is less. So air from in will be moving out. So what I have to do today, you have to write down the points which are responsible for steps in respiration. And the second is that you have to write down mechanism of breathing. You have to draw the diagram. Along with that, from your text, you will note down the points which is causing changes, which is responsible for inhalation process, and the other one which is responsible for exhalation process. I have told the points. Now you have to find out from the text and you have to write it down. So it is a very important 3-mark question. Mechanism of breathing along with the diagram. Okay. So that's all for today. Have a nice day. Thank you.